So, somewhere along the line, the modern left has just crossed over into the realm of total moral confusion. And that's putting it mildly. One could easily say just straight out evil. No, you don't believe me? Just listen to this. A screaming trans activist takes bow after trying to shut down detransitioned woman chloecole. Now, who is chloecole? She's an 18-year-old woman who was put on puberty blockers and testosterone at age 13, had a double mastectomy at 15. Let me repeat that. Had a double mastectomy at 15, and then detransitioned at 16. So all of this within 3 years from the ages of 13 to 16. Adults did that to her. Now, she was the keynote speaker at a Teens Against Gender Mutilation rally. And this is something, obviously, that she can speak on, having been mutilated at 15. The event, organized by Turning Points USA, was met with a crowd of angry trans activists intent on preventing the young woman from telling her story. So activists intent on preventing an 18-year-old woman from telling the story of the tragedy of her childhood, so that other young people might not make the same horrible mistake. As Cole told how she went from being a happy, healthy little girl to being indoctrinated online into believing that she was really a boy. As she was telling this story, sirens and drums can be heard in the background from the assembled mob of trans activists. So they're trying to prevent people from hearing the story of a young woman who started being transitioned by adults at the age of 13, had a double mastectomy at 15, detransitioned at 16. They're trying to prevent her from telling her story. So I don't know, you tell me, is that moral confusion? Is that evil? What is it exactly?
Hello, everybody. I'm Chloe Cole, and I am a former transgender teen and an advocate for the safety of children and an improved standard of care in patients with gender dysphoria. I'm here today to talk about my experience transitioning as a child and how medical transition causes harm to developing body and mind. I am here to tell you that you are not alone. I'm speaking to all of you today from a place of understanding and love, because I have felt many of the same feelings. I've struggled with the same problems and fought.
Do you hear that? They're banging drums, blowing whistles, there's sirens going to prevent this young woman from telling her story. You know, I'm sorry, a decent human being, even a decent human being who'd been indoctrinated into this far leftism, a decent human being would stop for a moment and say, maybe I should listen to this. Maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe I'm just not 100% right. Maybe it's more complicated. I mean, maybe it's important for them to hear a young woman talk about how their ideology wrecked her life and stole away her childhood. Video footage shows one young woman screaming at the top of her lungs, while another shouted, "You do not understand the hate that you are spreading," into a megaphone, and a third held up a sign that says, "Jesus was trans." So the Jesus was trans thing is just an attempt to attack them, and also the assumption that anybody opposed to mutilating children is a hardcore Christian, which is simply not the case. Because I'm agnostic, and I'm against it. Why? Because I think it is clearly child abuse. It is so bizarre, just these fanatics. They just don't want anybody, they don't want the public to hear the regrets of a transition or somebody who's detransitioned. Somebody who was saying that they couldn't possibly have consented to these procedures as a child, as a 13-year-old, as a 15-year-old, which is something that any sane person can understand.
If you don't play into the trans agenda, you're cast out as a bully and a...
What other conclusion can you come to other than that these people have been driven mad by the far leftist ideology? And I think behaving this way, while Chloe Cole is telling her story, it speaks to more than just moral confusion. It's heartlessness, isn't it? That may be mixed with utter and total narcissism. Anyway, Cole went on to describe how her reluctant parents were coerced into consenting to her experimental sex change, how they were told that their daughter would commit suicide if they didn't consent to medicalization in the form of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. This is what those lunatics are trying to prevent you from hearing. Quote, "Would you rather have a dead daughter or living son?" Cole's parents were asked. And whether or not the doctors, the healthcare professionals actually believed that, it doesn't matter because the statistics never backed that up in the first place. In fact, they suggested the opposite. Anyway, Cole is now suing the healthcare providers, whom she claims failed to address her complex mental health needs and instead fast-tracked her onto a harmful medical pathway. Quote, "I don't want anyone to go through what I have, and that's why I'm up here," as she told the crowd at the rally. "I am no longer bound by the lies and assumptions that ruined my childhood. I am no longer part of it anymore. Keep your religion away from me, out of our schools, and away from our children." She's talking about the radical gender religion. So she is suing the people who profited off of wrecking her childhood. And she's not the only one. Here's a headline: Tavistock Gender Clinic to be sued by 1,000 families. The Tavistock Gender Clinic is facing mass legal action from youngsters who claim they were rushed into taking life-altering puberty blockers. This is in England. This clinic has been shut down since. And England, like other European countries are doing, have reassessed this affirmative care, this gender-affirming care model, where essentially you do just rush children into puberty blockers and then surgery. They've reassessed that and are now moving towards more of a counseling approach. In other words, let's not just rush and do the most harmful thing possible immediately. So in the UK, it took them 1,000 families to reconsider. How many will it be in the US? How many will it be in Canada? Who knows? But one thing is certain, there's going to be a tidal wave, a tsunami of lawsuits. And it's not just a tidal wave of lawsuits, it's going to be a tidal wave of human misery that could have been prevented. And you can be assured that all the while, these lunatics will still be howling. Anyway, please subscribe, like, and share. Sharing really helps me out. I thank you for that. I will see you next time.